Right, everyone. This is a very special What's on Your Mind Wednesday. I am so excited to share this platform and to have this amazing conversation with Miss Courtney Chanel. She is a dear friend of mine. She is an amazing professional. She is a social worker, a mother's advocate, super, super dope lady. So we're going to get right into it in about 1 more minute. Okay. As you all are coming in, you will be muted. We are expecting over 100 people to actually be on this Zoom. So as you can imagine, we can't have so much chatter going on. I do encourage you all to utilize our chat. Please put your name, your Instagram or social media handles for us to interact and follow you. As we go through this discussion, please make sure if you're on any social media to use the hashtag WOYMW, which is What's on Your Mind Wednesday. And for this particular What's on Your Mind discussion, it's called Coping with Kids During COVID. And the hashtag for that is Coping Kids COVID. All right. All right. It is 8:05. We're about to get started. So welcome again. Thank you all for registering. Thank you all for showing up and showing out for us. Thank you for all of the shares, all of the comments, and all of the questions about how can we create spaces for other parents to cope during this pandemic crisis of COVID. So my name is Jaye Wilson. I am the founder and CEO of Melinated Moms. We are a women empowerment organization. We've been in existence for the last 3 years. We provide a safe space and platform for moms and women of color all throughout the melanated spectrum. In the work that we do, we host social impact events such as this one, where we inspire, cultivate, and motivate our community to be better and to thrive through education, advocacy, and entrepreneurship. So, all of that being said, I cannot wait till you all meet Miss Courtney Chanel Mick. She is a dear friend. She is an amazing mom. She is a motivator, a captivator, whole bunch of, dope adjectives because that's who she is. I have the honor and privilege of calling her my dear friend, and I'm so excited to have this discussion with you. So thank you so much, Courtney. Would you like to say anything to the audience before we get into the discussion?
Thank you so much for having me, Jaye and Melinated Moms, and to all of you for joining us today. I am so excited to dive into this discussion. Much needed, especially as we are entering yet another transition during COVID. So yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, we still have more people rolling in. I want you all to definitely interact, network. This is an event. So, we know we have to practice social distancing. So we can't touch each other, but we can virtually connect and network. So please utilize our chat space, your name, your Instagram, or any social media, any way that we can stay in touch. We want to be able to reach you. If you are from a organization or a community-based space, or even an individual who is interested in helping and being a part of this movement, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Send us an email. Go to our website, www.melanatedmoms.com, and you can always send us an email at melanatedmoms@gmail.com. Okay? So we'll go right into this. I'm so excited. So we've done introductions. So for those who follow us on social media, you will see every week on Wednesdays at 8 p.m., we host a weekly commentary called What's on Your Mind Wednesday. So the purpose of this discussion is really to open up different questions that parents and other people who support parents have been asking throughout, parenthood or motherhood or, just their daily lives with children. So the month of May is Maternal Mental Health Month. And we started the discussion this month talking about different resources for moms. We've also had our co-founder, I love to call her Cece. Her name is Alexia. That's what her mama called her. She actually did our What's on Your Mind Wednesday last week, talking about how she feels being a pregnant mom during COVID. So we wanted to continue to build upon that discussion and really dive into it a little bit deeper. So that's what the purpose of this conversation is. So today we're going to have this conversation. We're going to give some resources and some great information and talk with this amazing professional who is impacted by COVID personally and professionally through her work as a school social worker, but then also as a working mom. So, I want you all to continue to utilize all the spaces that we have. We are live on Facebook. We are live on, where is it? YouTube. And, obviously we're live here on the Zoom. The Zoom only had capacity for 100 people, and we maxed that out. So, the ability to expand our access through the social media channels was our gift to you, and we want to continue to provide that. Okay. All right. Couple housekeeping rules. Please be courteous to one another. We may have conversations here that may be conflicting with maybe personal or professional opinions, but they are just that. They are opinions. We want to be respectful. We want to give the same respect that we expect. So, we definitely want to hear you, but we do not tolerate any put downs or any bullying or misconduct. We do have our Melinated Moms team who will be moderating the chat. And if they do see any uncourteous behavior, we will ask you to leave, just to be clear. Going into the next one, this is a safe space. So because this is a safe space, this is a no judgment zone. We don't want anyone who will bring that down. We're all about good vibes and positivity. And if that is not you, or you feel like maybe your vibe's a little messed up, this ain't for you. We want everyone to be here, feel encouraged and feel inspired. So please keep all your judgments to yourself. This is a space of learning. So there may be times that you may not understand something, or you may not have heard of certain things, but this is the time to really gain that knowledge, so please be open-minded for the conversations that we are going to be having. As I said, when you guys came in, everyone will be muted outside of the presenters until the Q&A portion. And we'll still try to figure out how to moderate that because there are such a large amount of people who are on the live. All questions that you have, we're asking if you can place them into the chat box, and we will try to address as many as possible during the question and answering period. Please network. I love and thrive off of creating a wonderful foundation of networking with people who are like-minded. So no one who has registered and no one who is here by coincidence. You are here because we asked you to be. You are here because you express interest, and you are here because we have information that is useful and relevant to what you do, how you live, and who you interact with, right? Last but not least, find a resource and be a resource. So, regardless of what walk of life you're in, race, gender, class, social economic status, everyone here has the ability to reach someone, teach someone, and change someone. So we're asking you to be that resource. If you see this video and you're just jumping on one of our social media platforms, or someone told you about it, pass it on to someone else. Tell them what we're doing. The good thing about these conversations is we are going to be continuing to do this on a monthly basis. So every last Wednesday of the month, we will have a new What's on Your Mind Wednesday that will address a more in-depth discussion based on the topic for the month of awareness. Okay. Miss Courtney Mick. All right, y'all. Let me give you her bio. So Courtney C. Mick is a licensed social worker. She's based out of New Jersey. She is a mental health and wellness specialist who promotes education and empowerment of millennial Black women and women of color. She is a mother to an amazing 3-ager, Aiden. He is the cutest little boy. And she is also the founder and curator of several amazing movements, such as I Am Not Superwoman, Breaking Ground, the Coffee Break, Melina Mom, and the Empowerment Expo. If you ever want to find anyone who is more passionate about motherhood, millennials, and changing the world, you have to get connected with Courtney. She from the moment I met her, I knew, I was like, yep, that's it. She's dope. So she talks the talk and she walks the walk, and she makes sure that she has the information, the resources, and the tenacity to deliver the messages that we need, you know? So again, I'm so grateful for her to be a part of this. For those who may not know me, hey, I am the founder of Melinated Moms. Again, we started this over 3 years ago out of the need to find a supportive network. I went through a transition where I went through a divorce, and I needed to figure out how to transition from being a married mom of 2 to being a single mom, a single solo mom of 2 children. So I created this space to find other moms and other women to have these conversations with and to really connect through our children. And it's grown into a beautiful space of advocacy and just awesomeness. And I'm so excited to continue to be on this journey and all of the wonderful people who've been with us along the way. Professionally, I am a nurse. I am a licensed practical nurse. I've been a nurse for 15 years, primarily working in community health. I am so passionate about creating new narratives for what a Black mom looks like, what a melanated mom looks like, what we are able to do, and breaking barriers. So, you know, continue to stay with us. I appreciate you all for being a part of this conversation with us. And make sure that you're following us on our social media. So we are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of that at Melinated Moms. Okay? All right. I done said all the good stuff. Now we are going to jump into the questions. You ready, Courtney?
Jaye.
All right. Question number 1. What is coping? Like, when we ask that question, what does that mean to you?
Oh, goodness. So for me, I had to take a step back when I thought about this question, because when I hear coping, I'm typically teaching someone a coping skill or something that they can do in response to anxiety, depression, school stress, child stress, when it comes to like coaching and things like that. So I really wanted to break it down first to say coping is how you respond to something that's happening. It's something that we do in our everyday life. You have a stressor, you have something that's going on. How are you dealing with it? So it's how you deal with things, right? But if you want to get into the definition of it, it's how you manage difficult emotions, stress, and maintain a sense of order, things like that. So coping really is this basic skill that we learn from childhood. How is your kid going to tell you at 2 years old that they don't want the grapes and they want the apple slices? They're going to throw a tantrum because they don't have the words yet. How are they managing that? How are they handling it? So that is coping. Coping at its foundation is how are you dealing with something? How are you dealing with an issue? How are you dealing with what's being thrown at you? How are you managing? So coping could look like there's a ton of coping skills that we do in our everyday life, whether it's taking a breather, taking a deep breath, whether it's going for a walk, taking a moment to practice mindfulness if we want to get into higher levels of coping, whether it is us going into actually disconnecting from the stressor and taking a break, or we are even going into some more not well thought out, but coping skills that bring you into mindfulness and being intentional and things like that. So coping can be whatever it is that works for you to manage a situation. There's good coping skills and there's bad coping skills. I could talk about coping skills all day and how people handle things, but if you think about it like that, how are you handling something? That is coping.
Okay. So how would you say COVID has changed the way people can cope through their everyday lives?
How would I say? COVID has changed everything, literally, from the way that we shop for our groceries, the times that we're allowed to go into stores, the accessibility that we had to different things, whether you like to go to the gym, which is a coping skill for some people, or how they manage their stress or how they manage their wellness, things like that. COVID has changed everything. I started to ask myself the question, what didn't COVID change?
That's word.
I'm trying to find the answer to that question. It literally did change everything. For me, even looking at the mileage on my car, by now I would have had to get an oil change because of how much I drive. I might actually be able to stick it out to the amount that the date that they put on that thing. You know the thing I'm trying to say.
The oil change date. Like, oh, that's a challenge. That's what I look at. When I see that, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be back before then. Yeah. So how do we change the routines that we used to do into accommodating this new normal with COVID? Like, how do we do that?
How do we do it? We remain flexible and we stay in a space of acceptance. So one of the things that I did very early on when the stay-at-home orders, or not even the stay-at-home orders when they went into effect, when my job told us that we were staying at home, the date of March 19th that I will never forget. Yes, yes, I remember. I had to accept that, okay, this is what we're dealing with. It's something totally new. It's something unprecedented. It's something that we've never experienced before. And it's a space that we have to be in. I had to think about it like this. I was thinking about playing a game of domino. I don't know if everybody plays domino or if you play spades or something like that. I'm not familiar with the latter that well. No, I don't play spades, but I know the concept. Okay. You dealt your cards and you have to manage with what you are dealt. You can't change your cards in your hand, but you have to deal with that. So with COVID, it became all right, I just have to accept what I have, whether it's a good hand or a bad hand, and I have to kind of get through it. I'm not one to just say get through it, but it's a matter of being mindful of where you are and how you're feeling and accepting that and then trying to make do with that.
So kind of to add to that, I want to get your opinion on how do we manage the way that COVID gave us this false sense of like free time, right? So we've talked about this like 100 times. Like, we're like, okay, we're technically not working the way that we used to work. So now I can be super productive because I'm at home, right? But you're not taken into, or we aren't always taken into account, you're at home, yes, but you still have the same, if not more, responsibility being in your home and also being a working parent. And on top of that, you have your child or children and their schoolwork and, you know, the expectations of making sure they stay on top of their work and thrive and all of that. So how can we accommodate that as a part of this new normal?
Okay, so what we are talking about is having all of our roles balled up into one. Right. For someone like me who works outside of the home, it has become, okay, I'm still working full-time, but I'm still working full-time in my house. Okay, now I'm a parent full-time. And I'll be honest and say, like, when I'm at work, that's time off from my kid. So
Right.
I'm being a full-time parent while working full-time. Not to mention, I'm still being a full-time entrepreneur. So everything is all in this ball. Oh, I forgot one. Now I'm a preschool teacher. So I'm a high school social worker, a preschool teacher,
Mhm.
and I'm looping all of these roles into little old me who is gonna bust at the seams. So we are balancing or trying to navigate roles that are supposed to be separate under one roof, figuratively and literally. And some of us might be losing our minds doing it. So
That's me.
yes. How are we supposed to do this? It's really about I don't even want to say accepting again, but really trying to separate things or compartmentalize things as best as you can. But I guess the best thing you can do is create your schedule and make it work for you. You can't, what I realized is I can't let anybody outside of my space, my physical space, create anything for me at this time. You can't tell me you can tell me what you need. I can tell you if I could do it. And that is really where we are right now. It's like, I can tell you if I could do it at that time. Nope, it's not nap time. It's going to be crazy.
Right.
So, yes.
One thing I do want to highlight that you do, and you do very well. So if you guys go to Courtney's Instagram at Court Chanel Says, she's been posting a lot of really great, like, candid shots with her son, doing like different activities outside, incorporating things that, you know, are typically like messy or whatever. Like, it would probably drive us crazy if it wasn't in this time. And you're using it as like a learning space for your son, and also as a quality time portion, right? So can you talk a little bit about how we can balance that quality time versus quantity of hours, and like how you're doing it? You're doing it well, just so you know. And I'm not saying that just because you're my friend. Like, you really are.
Thank you. Okay, so before COVID happened, I learned that if I wanted to wash the dishes and I wanted to actually get that task done, I needed to involve Aiden in it, because otherwise he was going to be calling my name or trying to do something, trying to see what I was doing. So I realized that if I'm going to do something, he, who is a child who is very hands-on and loves to do things with his hands, needs to have his hands into something, whether that's a sandbox, whether it's baking pizza, making banana bread, playing with kinetic sand or Play-Doh, which I hate. It's really allowing him to, or allowing me to recognize his interests and really dive into them. So I'm gonna tell y'all a secret. I stopped teaching Aiden a while ago because I was done. And I was okay with that. And I did it guilt-free, because if I continued being a preschool teacher, one of us wasn't going to make it. And that's just me being honest. And it probably wasn't going to be me. I wasn't going to make it, y'all. It wasn't going to happen. So it was really important to dive into the other ways that he learns. And when I tell you, I'm looking at him and I'm like, where did you learn that? Sometimes when we move away from the worksheets and the textbooks, because I became that person who was like, oh, that's a nice workbook in Sam's Club or BJ's. Let me buy that. Or, oh, let me print these 20,000 pages that the
Virgo.
Child Care Center is sending, and we're going to do it all in day 1, 2, 3, and maybe we'll review on 4 and 5. Nope, we're not doing any of it anymore. We are going to stop, and we are going to do hands-on experiential learning like I did last summer. We had the best summer ever. And that is what I've accepted at this time. He's learning, he's still counting, doing his numbers, writing his name, all of those things. And it's okay. We're coping.
That's it.
That's it. So involving.
I'm glad you brought that right back, right? But I feel like that's really important. I know a lot of moms, regardless if married or single or whatever your relationship status, we hold mom guilt, right? And when we're thinking about how am I going to manage all of these expectations, my expectations for myself, my expectations for my job or my employer or my business, or any other relationship that we have in our lives, how are we going to manage all of those things and thrive and still like sleep and eat and use the bathroom and clean the house and all these other amazing things. Like, you know, we get down on all of those expectations. But I think what you just said really, it put something into perspective for me. It helped me to realize I can't do it all, and it's okay. But you also can communicate that without having mom guilt, right? So I know, like, you know, Aiden is 3. But, you know, my kids are a little bit older. My kids are 8 and 11. And when we first got into the COVID thing, I was so nervous that my kids were going to fall so far behind and it was going to be all my fault and all these other horrible, I'm a terrible mother feelings, right? But I had to take a step back. I had to take a deep breath, started meditating and stuff. And I actually reached out to the kids' teachers and I told them, like, look, I ain't got it. I can't do all of these things. I will get to these things with my kids. We'll go through them as quickly or as slowly as we possibly can. But the goal is to try to get through it and not drive ourselves crazy, right? And I also had to learn, my kids are going through this the same way that I am, right? So like you were saying earlier, kids don't always have the words to express their needs or their wants properly. So sometimes they lash out or they have tantrums or, you know, they say things that just don't make any sense. And, you know, we're still trying to figure out how to manage our own feelings during COVID. So imagine, you know, younger children and the expectations that they have now. So, you know, with our kids being my kids being in school, they're worried, like, oh my God, does this mean if I don't finish all of these assignments, I'm going to fail, I'm going to be stupid, I'm going to have all these, you know, these horrible things. Now your kids are feeling anxious and, you know, worrisome. So, you know, I feel like this new normal, learning how to create new routines, that's something that I had to learn. That's something that I had to learn how to teach my children. And that's something that I had to also learn how to ask for help with managing, you know, with my kids, with myself, and with, you know, with my other relationships, you know. So, yeah. All right. So we'll go on to the next question. What can moms or any parent do to manage the stressors that are associated with COVID right now? So this question is really thinking about the mom's place, but then also the village around that mom. Like, how can the mom get the help she needs and ask her village around her to get the proper help that she needs to thrive?
Let go of that. This isn't a plug, but it just highlights how important it is. Realize that you're not Superwoman and that you're human.
That's a plug, but it's a good plug.
Right. But you see how real it is though? But
it is.
You need help. It's okay to ask for help. So normalizing asking for help, whether it's that you need emotional support or you need a break or you need somebody to bounce an idea off or you need somebody to tell you you're tripping or you're not. Like, you need to be able to ask for help. So that's first and foremost, asking for help. I think to be able to also utilize support, you have to know even what your virtual village looks like. Even like, we're living in a virtual space, and when we come out of that virtual space and we're back to being in person and live and being able to have the physical connectedness with one another, knowing that you have organizations like Melinated Moms available to you, brands like Courtney Chanel available to you, brands like Free to Be Mindful that provide resources. I'm sure we'll get into a resource space a little later. But knowing that there are networks created just for this. I know Melinated Moms was created because you needed a space that did not exist. I know that Courtney Chanel was created because I needed a space that didn't exist yet. So knowing that we see you, we feel you, and it's because we are you. We've lived these similar experiences. We're going through it presently. We are losing our mind and screaming and pulling our hair out together. The question, like, do you have space for my vent right now because I'm gonna lose it, or I lost it and I need you to bring me back? And that's just the reality of it. Parenthood, there's no handbook to it. but we become one another's handbook because one way that worked for another person may work for the next. And just on the other hand, something that worked for somebody else might not work for you, but you might have something that speaks to someone else. So using your network, using your village, and tapping into them when you are in need, but also recognizing that you need that help.
Yeah, and I think we see it a lot in communities of color, right? Where we're taught you're supposed to be strong, you're not supposed to complain, just pray it away, just ignore it, it'll get better. This is a part of the growth process. I understand it, you know, but I don't agree with it. I think it takes so much to even open your mouth, let alone open your mouth and say, saying the words, I need help, right? So I think what we are representing, you know, just kind of paraphrasing what you said, is we are representing ourselves, but we're also representing other women who never really get to see people who look like them talk about these things, right? And acknowledge that these things exist, and these conversations and these spaces are needed in communities of color, right? And like I said earlier, this is across race, this is across gender identity, this is across socioeconomic status, this is regardless of where you are, who you are, what you do. These are things that everyone can feel. They are impacted by this, right? And if anything, COVID taught us, it taught us that this is not a exclusive issue. This is a very inclusive issue. And we all have to find ways to cope with it collectively. We can't do it in a silo, right? So, you know, like you said, utilizing our networks and talking to people who are a part of our village, our virtual village, our actual in-person village, our social media villages, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on wherever, all of these conversations are needed for every woman, right? And every parent, regardless of any of that. All right. Also, I do want to do a small little plug. One amazing organization that we've been working with is called Advocates for Children of New Jersey. They're actually one of our community partners and sponsors for today's event. And we've been having these conversations with AC and Jaye about how can we create spaces that support the essential workers who are out right now. Because a lot of them, they look like us, you know? So if an essential worker has to work and, you know, the executive order in April closed daycares, like people are being faced with now, you know, a completely different layer of stress and trying to figure out how to cope. You know, do you choose between going to your essential job, or do you choose between being at home with your children because you don't have anyone to watch them, right? So, you know, for me, I had to actually make that decision. I had to not work. I could not work as a nurse because I had no one to keep my children. And I really had to make the decision if I was going to literally risk my life or my children's life by being exposed to COVID to help other people, but then not have the ability to come back home because I didn't want my kids to get sick, or vice versa, right? So I just want to bring that out because AC and Jaye, we work with them. We are going to continue to have conversations around how to advocate for parents, but also understanding how to advocate for our children, right? So at this time, we're going to take a small little break. Drink some juice. We'll come back in about 5 minutes. So if you guys have to go potty or anything else like that, this would be the time to go do that. All right. So we'll pause for the cause, and we'll see you guys in a bit.
This chat is everything.
I love it. All right. And we're back. Okay. Let's continue with our wonderful discussion. For those who are just joining us, again, I'm Jaye Wilson, founder and CEO of Melinated Moms. We are having a discussion today called Coping with Kids During COVID, and our wonderful special guest, Ms. Courtney Chanel, licensed social worker and millennial mom mogul. I'm just going to throw that out there. She is leading the discussion with us, and I'm so excited to have her a part of this conversation and helping to be a part of the solution, right? So we don't want to just have a question, we want to actually have some answers also. So continue to stick with us, and for those who are just joining, make sure you put your information into the chat, your name, location, and any social media that you want to share. We want you to find a resource and be a resource here. All right, so we're going to jump right into the next question. So we're going to switch up the gears a little bit. So we understand the need to support parents, right? We know that that is absolutely necessary. But we can't forget about the kids, right? So we can't have a conversation about one without the other, because the kids are going through COVID too. You know, they're missing their friends, they're missing their teachers, they're missing the people that they interact with on a daily basis as well. For parents, we may feel, you know, school for our kids is a break. Wholeheartedly, I 110% believe it is. But you know, now our kids, they have to figure out what this new normal looks like for them. So I want to ask you, Courtney, where can we find resources to support our kids in their mental health right
now? Okay, let me put on my social worker hat now, my high school social worker hat, because you know we are in here wearing 20,000 hats.
Yeah.
First and foremost, so there's a lot of free resources available, and as much as I'd like to say social media is not one of them, social media is a huge one. So many people who are posting resources for parents to support their kids on social media. You have to make sure you're following the right people, and if you're not, unfollow and then go and find the right people. Make use of hashtags, search different things that you're looking for, you're gonna find them. So of course, you know, Melinated Moms and Courtney Chanel, we have resources to point you in the directions that you need. But let's talk about the things that are already at your reach. Your child's school's social worker or guidance counselor, even if they are not actively working, should be able to point you, or even if they're not actively speaking with your child, should be able to point you in the direction of the resources that can assist you. So in New Jersey, we have the Children's System of Care, which has a plethora of free resources. So for New Jersey, each county has what is called a resource net website. So for Essex County, it's essexresourcenet.org. For Bergen County, it's bergenresourcenet.org, and you can search. It is a search engine for mental health support and resources.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yes. You can find what you need on there, and if not, you can find somebody who can tell you where you can find what you need on there. There's an app that I love to use called, well, previously called Stop, Breathe, and Think. They recently changed their name to My Life. So if you're searching in the App Store on your Android or your iPhone or whatever device you're using, it's called My Life. This is not an ad. I really believe in it. I love to use it for myself. Aiden's a little young to use it, and that's why I transitioned to some of the YouTube videos for mindfulness. But they show, for someone his age, they'll show a breathing cat or something like that to help him do like a deep breathing exercise, or, you know, different ways that are age appropriate. Other things to help with the mental health of your child, doing your exercise activities with you. I saw Charmaine just join us. Charmaine did something amazing on Instagram, or not on Instagram, but with her kids.
Hey,
And
Charmaine.
yes, and it was called Superhero Boot Camp. Child, they were in boot camp. They were doing drills. They were doing workouts, and they were excited because they had on their superhero capes. So switching things up to help your kids just not feel like they're stuck in the monotony of day to day, whether it's staying home or going outside and not really being able to do anything, not being able to go to the playground, switching things up. I have this book. I'm trying to make it focus. 501 activities for your kids.
Nice.
I got it at Aldi. I don't think it's there anymore, but there are 501 screen-free activities to do with your kids.
Yeah.
And it goes over the age of 10. So from young to 10 years old, they give you different ideas of things that you could do inside, outside, art, activity, science, number fun, a whole ton of things. So to support your child's mental health, there's also Free to Be Mindful. That's Vanessa de Jesus Guzman. She's a counselor. Yes, we love her.
Love Vanessa. Yes, it's amazing. Latina, wonderful, wonderful woman. Yes.
And she does these free virtual mindfulness classes for kids K-5 on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. And I'm also seeing in the chat that Child Mind Institute does the same thing in the mornings, and that's geared towards younger children. So one thing that you can also do to support your child's mental health is having them stick to what you consider to be a routine. So the best thing that we've done for Aiden and myself is, if I do these 5 things, it's not 5, but if I do these things in a day, doesn't matter what order they happen, if I do these things in a day, we've had a successful day.
Perfect.
One of those things is brushing our teeth and showering. So, and that's how simple it can be.
Yeah.
I started off, the Virgo in me started off with the 8 a.m. wake up, do this. It wasn't working, and I had to let go of that. That structure is working for other families, and it's fine, but you have to figure out what works for you, and making sure that you are tapping into that to support your child's mental health. So I think I covered those resources. Ask a social worker, ask a friend, tap into your school, because I think the response to this has been schools have already identified what mental health resources are available in your community, which ones are accessible virtually, things like that. And most things are free right now. A lot of therapists are doing, or some therapists are doing things for free, providing sessions for free, providing different resources. So making sure that you are using those things that are available to you. And YouTube has nice kid-friendly yoga on the farmhouse, on the beach, in the jungle. You name it, you can find it. So, yes.
So, you just did a whole segue for me, right?
I did.
You did. So, as you know, Mick, I don't know if I've shared it with the public, but I'm currently going through a yoga instructor training, as if I don't have enough stuff to do, but I am. And one of the reasons that I wanted to go through this training was to help me calm my mind down, right? But even though I've initially started it for me, the thing that really sold me on doing this training, which I'm doing through I'm Still Yoga, shout out to Leslie in Newark. When I told her my interest, she said, I don't have children or anything, but this might be a really good activity that you can do with your kids. And I didn't even think about it from that angle until she said it. And I was like, oh, let me find the money. I got to give this girl this money, because she's literally sold me. If this is something that I can do to help me, like my self-care, my mindfulness, and I can also share that with my children to give them those same skills and create more coping mechanisms through yoga, I'm sold. I don't know any parent who wouldn't want to do that, right? So I appreciate you saying that and shouting out like why yoga is actually really good for kids as well. So moving a little bit to the left, I want to talk about boundaries. So, I'll give a small little thing. I've had some things going on with my oldest child about learning how to set boundaries, right? And as COVID is constantly changing our new normal, I had to figure out ways to work on Melinated Mom's work, to host meetings, interact with people. But our kids, regardless of how old or young they are, once they see you, sometimes they don't recognize that you still need like your own time. So I want to ask you, how do we set boundaries for our kids within this whole new normal thing? Because if they see us, they think you're available, but now our homes have been transformed into classrooms as well as our workspaces. So could you give us maybe some tips on how we can set boundaries with our kids?
How can we set boundaries for our kids? Making them aware. So it starts there. Do they know that something is happening? Do they know that you're working? And this even goes like if you're living with family, because that's a major factor too. So do they know that work is happening right now? So with a 3-year-old, it's very hard to tell him, hey, mommy, well, no, it's not. I tell him all the time, mommy's working. And he'll say, mommy, you're working. And still do what he's doing. One thing that I did create, because it was almost, if you can't beat them, join them mentality. And guess what? While mommy was working, Aiden was working. And I'm going to take a step back and say, I have never been an advocate for screen time. I've never been an advocate for him having an iPad. Guess what, y'all? He's using an iPad. And that was something that absolutely had to change for me during COVID. If I'm going to provide counseling for these kids, for as long as a session can hold and uninterrupted, he had to use an iPad. What is he doing on the iPad? Working. Khan Academy. He's watching, I don't know who Blippi is. Well, I do know who Blippi is because I've watched the Blippi videos. But going back to the boundary thing, it's like if mommy's working, Aiden needs to work. You're either working on a worksheet or you're working on on the iPad. Had to make that clear. That's the boundary. You're borrowing this. It's not yours. But really naming the boundary and making it clear that it exists and stating the expectation. So what do you expect when this thing is in place? But also knowing for them to know what the consequence is if you cross this line. Right. So if mommy's working and mommy is telling you, mommy needs you to be quiet right now, or mommy doesn't need you to throw this ball in the house, what is going to happen when you throw the ball and it knocks my work laptop on the floor? Sorry, I got lost there. No. But it becomes another conversation. The ball might go out the window because we're losing our minds a little bit, or it might go in the garbage. Just letting them know what is going to happen. You can't play with this ball in the house. Or this is the space that mommy needs for this amount of time. Young children, timers work. There's theories behind that. They get used to the timer. He started so real story. My mom was using a timer with Aiden while I was on a trip. And when I came back home, he's like, mommy, it's not time to go to bed because the timer didn't go off. That was about a safety net for him. Telling me, and here I'm coming back like, who are you talking to? You, because this is your routine. This is what works for you. You need the timer right now. So really naming and laying out what works for everybody, but knowing for yourself what you need. So what do you need? What do your kids need? And that's really how we have to create it. So knowing that your workspace, you need to define where your workspace is. If your workspace is at the kitchen table, letting your kids know when mommy's at the kitchen table, mommy's working, or when daddy's at the kitchen table, daddy's working. Mommy's on a work call. These are the 2 things that you can do while I'm on this work call. If you do anything outside of these 2 things, then this consequence will happen. You won't be able to do this. So being aware of what you need, and then also meeting the needs of your children at the same time, but letting them know when you're going to do an activity. So that's the other thing that I did. I broke up my workday. One, because my 16 and 17-year-old students are staying up, it's not past tense, it's actively happening. They're staying up throughout the night until 6 a.m. when the question of the day drops, so they can do their attendance for the day, and then they go to sleep. So when I'm calling them at 10 and 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm getting a Miss Mick, I'm asleep. Can you call me later? So my day has now been split up so I can meet the needs of my kids, meet the need of my actual child who I birthed, and meet my own need. I want to be outside while the sun's shining, and so that happens now.
Okay. Awesome. I loved all that.
I said a lot.
I'm gonna use that. No, I'm gonna use that, and I'm gonna call you tomorrow and be like, "Yo, that worked." So I get boundaries, and those are definitely necessary. But can you give us some examples of how we can keep our kids actually motivated to continue their own work in our new normal, with them being doing school at home, which is not the same as homeschool. And a couple of homeschoolers definitely verified that for me. They're like, this is not what homeschool looks like. This is something completely different. So again, how do we keep our kids motivated to do school at home during COVID? How do we create a regimen around that?
Validate them. You have to validate them first. This sucks. I hate it here. I feel like we say that a lot, and we say it jokingly. Don't want to say that to your kid, but at least validate for them. I know that this is a lot, because the work has been a lot. Across the board, anybody that I've spoken to on the East Coast, all the way down to Florida, from New Jersey, it's been too much work that has been assigned. Yeah. So acknowledging that for your child, like, this is a lot, and we're gonna do our best, and we're gonna do what we can. And how can I help you? So asking them for help. But even one thing that I heard that was great was switching up the times that you do homework or that you do schoolwork during the day, so it doesn't feel like the same thing all the time. Maybe you're starting the day off cooking together. And this is the challenge that we are experiencing with COVID, right? We're experiencing what you have to decide what you're going to neglect, whether you're neglecting your job. It's going to sound so bad when I say this, or you're neglecting your child. When you're working at home for your full-time job, it's not like I'm not being entrepreneur Courtney at home, off from the summer from being an educator, and I can work on Courtney Chanel while he's in summer camp. That's not it. I am actually being high school social worker, class of 2022, Courtney, or Miss Mick rather, and mom to Aiden. So it becomes a time where it's like, all right, I need to actually sit here with him during circle time with Miss Monica so I can make sure he's learning.
Yeah.
Or I need to give him this attention because he has been falling out on the floor for longer than normal. Even though that hasn't happened, by the grace of God. That hasn't happened recently. We're gonna accept that and accept all the
take it in, girl.
Celebrate when something goes right. But you're switching things up and you're making them work for you guys in that day. So if your kid is waking up on the wrong side of the bed, guess what? We're gonna go back to bed and we're gonna start over. Or you're gonna figure out a way to bring that joy into that day. So we know that we have to eat. How can you involve them in the breakfast process? Are they old enough to make their breakfast? Are you putting ice cream on the waffles? I've heard that a couple of times during COVID. We have an ice cream for breakfast. Are they eating junk? Are they eating whatever they want? Do they want fish sticks? What are you doing that's switching up your routine? Are you going outside for a walk first thing in the morning when the sun comes up? That has worked for me a number of times. We both have come in much calmer. It's like, all right, stop sign, I'm out. None of this is working. I'm not going to get any work done. You're not going to continue to have multiple meltdowns in the morning. How can we make this work? And literally just removing ourselves from the environment, taking a walk, even if it's just 5 minutes to the car and back, or down the street and back, something.
Right.
figure out how you can switch it up. Can you take this block of time and put it in the afternoon? If it's feasible, do it and don't even question yourself. So yeah, I'd say that that's how you keep them motivated, making it seem less tedious, because it's the same thing every day. Or you can even, I don't know how some schools have it structured, but maybe Monday is the day when they do all of their, or most of their math and English work. Tuesday is when they do their science and history. Switching it up that way too, where it's not, I'm not punching numbers all day, or I'm not reading tons and tons of material all day. Turning on an audiobook. Most audiobooks, or most books you can find on YouTube in an audiobook format, letting them listen to the story. Have them draw the picture out of the story. Tell me what you saw, something like that, to ensure that they're comprehending, that they're learning, that they're engaged. Make a project out of something, involve the family. It's so many different ways that we can do things. We're just too exhausted to think about it sometimes, and that's okay. It's not a normal time. We shouldn't feel guilty about it. It is a grieving process, wholly, like it really is a grieving process, depending on how you are handling it. So yeah, switch it up.
It's interesting you said that too. With my kids, initially, you know, I'm super Virgo too. So I'm like, all right, rigid schedule, 8 a.m., 8:15, 8:45, 9, 9:15, 9:17, 9:20. I was trying to do all of that because to me, it made sense, right? But I had to calm down. And I decided to do something different. I sat down with my kids and I asked them, like, how can we create a schedule that works for you guys? And then also I can work within, right? Because initially I'm like, okay, from 8 to 3, just like you would if you're at school, that's the time you're going to be at school in your house. And from 8 to 3 is a time that I'll be able to get my work done. But I very quickly found out that that was not realistic. My kids also, they need a lot of help. Like, I didn't realize how much my kids, not in a bad way, but they really were dependent upon an instructor and their teacher teaching them, and in the same breath motivating them to get the work done, right? So I had to learn how to accommodate that, you know. I wanted it to be just do your work, I'll do mine, and then we'll all meet in the middle, you know. But I had to change that. I had to pay attention to what my kids were saying and what they weren't saying, and I had to find another way to motivate myself to get my own work done during a different time, because in order to keep my kids on task, I had to be their motivating factor, even if it was just me sitting there with them, to watching them do their work. That to them was motivation for them to complete, you know. They would my kids often tell me, like, they want to spend more time, they want me to do more stuff with them, and I couldn't understand it at first. But once I sat down with them and I started seeing the work that they were doing, I was like, I see why you guys have all these questions, and this, you know, it is kind of overwhelming, you know. But I will say my kids, their school and the district has really created a lot of really amazing resources and avenues for them. I know every school district isn't doing this, but our schools gave each kid an iPad, and each iPad is specific to the child, and they have like a plethora of apps that the children use as resources, but also as a part of their work, right? So like my oldest, she uses Class Dojo, and it has like all of her assignments, and then she also uses another app called Epic to like interact with her classroom, her classmates, you know. And this is a bunch of them like that, you know. And then they also have another one called Seesaw, where the kids are able to interact back and forth with the teacher. So they'll see the assignment, they'll be able to see the instructions of the work, and the teachers actually, something that you just said earlier, the teachers are actually utilizing the YouTube narrated books as a part of the assignment. So the kids are being able to kind of do that on their own, you know. So they're looking up what the book is, how to read it, what it's about, and they're more motivated to show me and say, look, mommy, you can see this book too. You can read it. What do you think the story is about? You know, so I feel like that helps open up some conversation and communication between you and your kids in that space. Whew, that was a lot. Okay. How we feeling? I just want to check in really quick because I feel like I haven't done that. I apologize, guys. Let's see. How's the chat doing?
Chat is going. Okay, this chat is on it. I love it. There's so much support in the chat. There's so much vulnerability and transparency happening in here. It's good. Good.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we have some amazing people here. Thank you all. Oh my gosh. Broke up her son's day. This was great. All right, keep the conversations going, everybody. We definitely want to keep these conversations going. Again, we will be doing this once a month. Every last Wednesday of the month, we will have an in-depth discussion talking about all of these issues from COVID and beyond, right? So continue to stay connected with us. You can find us on any social media at Melinated Moms. You can also find Courtney Chanel at Court Chanel Says on her social media platforms as well. So make sure you write us in, you follow us, you log into our websites, you subscribe, all right? Okay. One more question. Ready, Courtney?
Yes.
All right. So, you know, we've been talking about this thing called mindfulness, right? So, you know, I've been trying to find different ways to de-stress myself. And one thing that you actually taught me very early in our friendship was how to be mindful and what it is and what it looks like, right? So can you explain how mindfulness works and like what it is? Because I don't think a lot of people are really aware of what mindfulness is. Like, I feel like it's kind of become like this little buzzword, but it's really, really a super dope concept. Could you tell us more about what mindfulness is?
Yes, I love mindfulness, and I even love to challenge people who say, I hate meditating. And it's like, okay, you can have mindfulness is like in that realm, but it doesn't necessarily have to be meditation, right? So mindfulness is a state of focusing on the present, but doing so without judgment. We are so quick, we are our worst critics. I can't even say that any better. We are so quick to judge ourselves, and that's why we experience mom guilt. That's why we feel guilty for different decisions that we make. That's why we feel guilty for putting boundaries in place when we need to. But mindfulness is a state of non-judgment and being aware of what's happening in the present, including the awareness of your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings, and your senses. So we are engaging our senses, right? And over some time now, it's worked its way into mental health because it has amazing benefits on improving not only your ability to think, but your ability to feel well. I love wellness. I will talk about wellness all the time. Another dollar, another day. But it definitely is, if I can stamp it for you, it is about being in the present and being in the present and aware of what you were feeling, thinking, doing in that present moment without judging yourself for it. So if I'm one of those people who is very self-aware, whether it's pain or whether it's thoughts. I can tell you, feeling anxious right now, not sure what it's about. And this is the best example I can give you. Feeling anxious right now, I'm not sure what it's about, but I know I'm anxious. See that there. Leave it where it is. All right, I'm anxious. Let it go. Shake it off. Or I'm feeling tension in my neck right now. Cool. I know it's there. That is a very oversimplified way of being mindful. I know that it's there. I know that it's happening. I am not actually going to do anything about it like in this moment, but at least I can address it later because I know it's present. So that's what mindfulness is.
Okay. Would you be open to doing a small mindfulness takeaway exercise with us?
And I can do a quick body scan.
All right. I like that. And look at this. I got a whole slide. Oh my God. So I would love if you can teach us how to do a body scan. I'm like, what is it actually? Before you actually do it, can you tell us what it is?
Okay, a body scan is so literally just how I pointed out that I know I have tension in my neck. And guys, I have tension in my neck because I know I was excited about this conversation that we needed to have. Mm-hmm. And of course, my stress sits in my neck. It's a practice where you are literally just allowing yourself to sit, whether you're seated and your legs are crossed or you're seated and your feet are on the floor. You're grounding yourself. That's a therapeutic term or a yoga term, or it's within the healing space. And you're allowing yourself to scan from head to toe, toe to head, and see how you are feeling in each area of your body. But the key is not trying to figure out where it's coming from. So, okay, I have this pain in my neck. Is that from, did I lift too many boxes today? No, we're not trying to figure that out. We're noticing it and we're moving on to the next part of the body.
Okay. So can we do just a small one, maybe for like 2 minutes?
Perfect.
All right.
So I am going to invite all of you to, if you are comfortable, close your eyes, sit up straight, and bring attention to your body. So we are closing our eyes right now and we are sitting straight with our feet either planted on the floor or our legs crossed. So begin by bringing attention to your body. You can close your eyes if it's comfortable to you, and you can notice your body seated wherever you are seated. Feel the weight of your body on the chair, on the floor, on your bed. Take a few deep breaths. And as you take a deep breath, bring in more oxygen, enlivening the body. And as you exhale, have a sense of relaxing more deeply. You can notice your feet on the floor. Notice the sensations on your feet touching the floor, the weight and pressure, vibration, heat. Even wiggle your toes a little bit. Bring your awareness to your feet on the floor. You can notice your legs against the chair, pressure, pulsing, heaviness, lightness. Notice your back against the chair, the wall, the bed. Now bring your attention into your stomach area. If your stomach is tense or tight, let it soften. Take a breath. Notice your hands. Are your hands tense or tight? See if you can allow them to soften. Notice your arms. Feel any sensation in your arms. Let your shoulders be soft. Notice your neck and throat. Let them be soft. Relax. Soften your jaw. Let your face and facial muscles be soft. Then notice your whole body present. Take one more breath. Be aware of your whole body as best you can. Take another breath. And then when you are ready, you can open your eyes.
That felt good. Woo, I hope that felt good to you guys.
It felt good for me to be facilitating it and not actively participating.
Oh my God.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So with meditation, you notice that there's a stillness to meditation, right? Mindfulness involves you being active and you activating your mind in that way that you're focusing your attention to different things. Something very much similar to a body scan is engaging your five senses. Is something we call 5-4-3, literally 5-4-3-2-1, where you're identifying 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, or whichever way that you would like to do 5-4-3-2-1. But you're literally engaging all 5 senses. And that's another thing that I do, especially, it's something that I put into practice even when Aiden is having like a really, he's just fussy. I'm like, okay, what do you see? What colors do you see in the room? Or what birds do you see outside, when he doesn't want to come inside and is having a full-blown tantrum as we're walking, things like that. So really just bringing your attention to something else or to whatever it is and not judging it. That is why I love mindfulness. That is why I love body scans, and tried and true. We are seeing it's very relaxing. It's enjoyable. It's something that you can do. Guess what, y'all? When your kids are driving you crazy.
Yes, do it again. Put the people in the back. Do it again. Yes.
Crazy. Guess what? We see those memes about moms locking themselves in the bathroom or their bedroom. This is the time. You put on some headphones and
I have been there.
Yes. Put on headphones, close and lock the door, give yourself 2 minutes. I promise. As much as we know they can destroy the house in 2 minutes, it'll be a 2-minute destruction that is totally worth it, because guess what? You're going to come out of that room, that bathroom, saying, I am livid that y'all did this. But guess what? Mommy is calm. And here's what's going to happen next. Rather than, yep, because we've all been there.
Yeah.
You will be grounded. So it is really important to make sure that you figure out the ways that are very useful for you to be able to handle situations. I'm loving that everyone is interested in 5-4-3-2-1. We'll answer. I'll share that during the question section. But yeah, mindfulness is everything, y'all. Research it, find different ways that you can engage it. The My Life app is amazing for it, especially introductory. And if you want, you can look up Stop, Breathe, Think on YouTube, because they have free stuff on there as well. So
and again, the dope plug for Free to Be Mindful with Vanessa de Jesus Guzman. I love her mindfulness activities because, you know, they're geared for our children, and she does them age appropriately as well, right? So I feel like that's super important to point out. We all need to have a mindful moment, right? Not just parents, because obviously we deal with a plethora of stress, but our kids too. You know, they're still learning how to manage and navigate life and growing up in it, right? So teaching them these skills early will help them to grow into well-adjusted adults, right? Because how many adults do we know that still throw tantrums at 35? Sometimes I do. I won't lie. It's me. I'm people. But, you know, learning these skills, learning what it means to cope, and learning how to teach coping to our children is so imperative, especially right now in the middle of a pandemic, right? So we've come to the great time of the question and answering period, right? So we're going to take the next 5 minutes to go through the questions that we have in the chat box. We also are live on Instagram, so if you have any questions, please type it in the comment section and we will get to you shortly. But we are going to prioritize the Zoom first. So I'm going to check with the Zoom chat and let's see what questions that you all have for us. Okay, you ready, Courtney?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's see, what do we have? Okay, so the first question I'm seeing is, can you explain the 5-4-3-2-1?
Okay, yes. So 5-4-3-2-1 is a grounding technique. It was something that was developed to address anxiety. As you may not know, but anxiety can manifest itself in multiple ways. It can show up as anger, it can show up as a tantrum, it can show up as indifference, it can show up as somebody shutting down. But it is definitely a technique to help bring you back to the present. Because if we are caught up in whatever is going on in our head or whatever is causing us stress, it finds us, we may find it hard to pull ourselves out of that. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is a grounding technique that is great to pull yourself out, right? So you're engaging your 5 senses. That's what I need you to remember first. And it works its way down. So I want you to remember, like, it's going to be hard for you to identify 5 things that you taste right now, unless you're eating. So you are looking for 5 things that you can see, and then you're going to say it out loud. So this is key. It works for you. It works for your kids. It works for 3-year-olds. As long as they're verbal, it's going to work. So tell me 5 things that you can see and say them out loud. So you could say, like right now, I can say, I see my lamp, I see my light on, I see my TV, this computer screen, Jay's pink shirt. I wasn't counting. I think that was 4 in my blue cup that I've been drinking water from. Then you're going to go to 4 things that you can feel. I feel my hands, I feel my legs on the seat, feel my feet on the floor, and I feel my earrings on my earlobe. Then you're going to go for 3 things that you can hear. I hear cars driving by. I just heard a baby crying. And then I hear myself talking. I don't know. I wouldn't do that one because you're talking. 2 things you can smell. I can smell my lip gloss, and I can smell my candle that I had lit earlier. And then 1 thing that you can taste. I can taste the water, and yes, water has a taste. I can taste the water that I've been drinking. So that is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In the moment, in the moment of trying to de-escalate someone, and I'm thinking of a severe someone who has blacked out and isn't even aware of where they are, it is a great technique to ground them. And even for somebody who feels as though they're getting worked up, it's also a great way to ground them, as well as for a toddler having a tantrum. One of the best ways to deflect the tantrum is to distract them. Bring their attention to something else. Best thing I've done is, oh, did you see that airplane going by?
But they gonna look. They like, oh, for real? Completely forgot that they just were on the ground having a meltdown. So we had a question from Instagram for anxiety coping techniques. Would you say the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 would be something for anxiety, or do you have any other recommendations for
anxiety? Mindfulness is very good for anxiety as a whole, as well as journaling. All of those things that I just mentioned bring your awareness to the present.
Yeah.
So I would say those are great. Yes, talk to me more if you want more direction on anxiety. Love talking.
Yes. And I'll make sure to put you in the Instagram so they can find your account as well. Remember, it is at Court Chanel Says on Instagram and Twitter. All right, next question. How can I help my 3-year-old cope with this crisis? Her eating behavior and not sleeping are getting exhausting. I'm so sorry. And that is from Belkis.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see you, because I was there, and it was very hard to get him to eat more than 1 meal a day. And my child loves food like his mother, so I was concerned. But I had to realize that, okay, we're going through a transition. I would start off with talking to your 3-year-old. They understand more than we think, and it was really great when I sat him down and said, listen, there were germs outside. You have to tell them about COVID in whatever way is age appropriate for them. And I'm not sure if you've done this, but tell them there's germs outside, and that is why we are home. That is why you're not in childcare. That is why you're not experiencing your normal routine, or mommy's home, things like that. And this is, hopefully it ends soon, but know that I love you, and this is what we are kind of dealing with right now. As far as getting a routine in place, still put your child in bed for that nap. Still put your child to bed at the time that they would normally go to bed. It may be a fight. It may require you to sit there a little bit longer, but you can also do things. You can also do things during that time. Whether you are handing your child a book, sticker books were great to keep him in bed even when he didn't want to go to sleep, because it's keeping his hands busy, but also keeping his attention and keeping him planted in his mattress where I needed him to be and not roaming around the house. So I don't know if that helps, but definitely starting off with a conversation just to normalize it, because they don't know what's going on, and we find it hard to explain to them when we don't fully know what's going on either. We know we're home, we know there's this thing happening, and things are opening back up or staying closed, and we're just trying to work our way through it. So acknowledging it, talking to them about it, and even, you know what, asking your 3-year-old, how do you feel? They'll tell you in the way that they can tell you. Aiden's new thing is saying, mommy, my belly hurts. And Aiden, well, if your belly hurts, you should sit on the potty. And if your belly doesn't hurt, we shouldn't say that our belly hurts. So starting to really have conversations with them in that way.
I love it. I love it. Oh, we have a really good question. Where'd it go? Wait, sorry, jumped there. How can we balance our kids' food? Because they are eating a lot. Yes. Can we tell these kids to use their in-school stomachs? Jesus. Oh my God. How do we balance food right now during this crisis? Or create balanced meals, I guess.
The best way that I saw very early on was rationing. I saw, it wasn't Pinterest, I think somebody posted on Instagram or Facebook, either one. And it was those lovely dollar store bins. They're open dollar store bins. And if you have multiple kids, and you can do this for yourself as well, labeling the bins.
Yes.
Child 1, child 2, child 3, dad, or mom, sister, child 1, child 2, whichever. You're labeling the bin and you're rationing out the snacks. The bin can live in the fridge. You can have fridge bin. You can have counter bin. Hey, family meeting. We're sitting down. These are your snacks for the day. Once you're done with these snacks for the day, that's it. That's it. But by day 2, they'll learn that, ooh, I shouldn't eat all of the chips and grapes at this time. Otherwise, if the food is out, it's free for all.
Yeah.
It's all for me if the food is out. So I had to start telling myself, giving myself prompts like, Courtney, you can only have 1 cheese stick with maybe 5 crackers, and that's it. So really rationing them out. Take the meal prep strategy and put it into play for each day.
Yeah.
Break everything up. If it's Tuesday, if these are your snacks for Tuesday, we're going to prepare for Wednesday together, and involve them in that process. If you involve them in that process and let them choose their snack to put in their bin, but they can only have 3 snacks, a morning, midday, and late night snack, or not late night, but evening. If it's late night, listen, do you. No judgment here. But
none at all.
Decide, and however you decide to break it up, that is a great idea to be able to create a visual boundary, but also an actual one surrounding food, because nobody wants to leave home with the COVID-20.
Or 25.
I don't want it.
I will say something just to add to that, something that I practiced during this whole COVID cooking thing. also learning how to manage what you're snacking on, right? So a couple weeks ago, I challenged myself I wanted to eliminate sugar, but that just wasn't even realistic. So I actually reduced the amount of sugar that I was eating. And it forced me to really pay attention to what I was putting into my body. So I wanted to really be more intentional, right? And again, I did it maybe just for me, but those are things that kids will emulate. If they see their parents doing it, they're gonna be like, well, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? This looks fun. Let me see. I want to try that, you know? And I realized when I reduced the amount of sugar that I was eating, it reduced the amount of sugar my kids were eating, you know? So I changed the things that I was buying. Instead of me buying chocolate covered granola bars, I bought actual regular granola bars. Or we learned how to make granola, which was actually a really cool and very messy activity. But we actually got to see what went into the foods that we were eating. I also noticed for me, cognitively, when I reduced the amount of sugar I was intaking, I was super sharp. Like, Courtney, you know me. I have like 7,243 projects that I'm working on literally right now. And it's inevitable that something may be missed, or I might have to, follow up with it a little bit later. But when I was like seriously on my game with reducing that sugar, I was like, I'm a big list person. I was checking off my crazy list of 35 things to do for today. And at the end of my day, I checked off 29 of the 35. And I'm like, I really did all this stuff, So I actually got to see the correlation between the reduction of sugar and how it shows up in my body, not just, in the areas I don't want it to be in physically, but also cognitively, right? So think about that also when it comes to our kids. If we are feeding our children foods that really aren't helping them mentally and physically, and, with COVID creating all of these barriers around being able to go outside or exercise or have the kids go to the park or anything like that, now our kids are less mobile than they used to be, right? So being aware and intentional with what you're feeding them can really help in all those other areas, all right, let's see if we have any more questions. Alexia says she has to hide her food in her room and add it slowly to general population. That's hilarious and sad, but more hilarious than anything. All right. I don't see any other questions. All right. So I am going to see, Courtney, do you have any questions or anything else you would like to share with the audience, or want anyone else to know that you have going on?
So I'm finding more questions earlier in the chat because they were coming.
Oh, please, you find them.
I have adult children, but I do have a grandson that is 5. However, teaching him has become so overwhelming. My question is, me giving him a vacation a bad choice on my part? Hold on, I wrote something multiple times while we were talking. I'm just gonna hold it up to y'all. Focusing. Yes. Jay, what's that say?
Let it go.
Oh, mom guilt. Mom guilt does not exist. It doesn't exist during COVID, and it doesn't exist outside of COVID. No, it's not a bad choice. I don't know if you heard me earlier. I stopped teaching Aiden weeks ago because it is overwhelming for him, overwhelming for me. And one thing we have to realize is our kids, yes, I am a firm believer that we are our kids' first teachers. Like, we first reinforce what they learn at school, but also this is not where they typically learn these things in a structured space. So no, please recognize that your grandson is still learning and probably learning a lot. I find that kids learn a lot when they are around adults. That is good and bad, so you have to be aware. but really knowing that he's still learning and he's still picking up things, and it's super, super, super useful for them. They still grow, and he deserves the break. You deserve the break. We all deserve the break. It's okay.
Everybody needs a break. We have another question. This is from Sophia. How to deal with teenagers who don't understand restrictions? Ooh, girl, I want to know this one. Hold on, where's my juice? Help us out here, Courtney. Social worker hat. Now.
I'm gonna push you a little bit because you implemented a system that is really, really effective recently with regards to boundaries, expectations, and accountability. So tell us what you did. And
Did you just spell it back? Did you? I felt that. I appreciate. I'm gonna receive it though. Okay. So, as I mentioned earlier, my oldest has a couple of issues with boundaries and consequences and accountability, and things came to a head where it could no longer just be like, all right, just do whatever you need to do. It had to be addressed, and it had to be addressed appropriately. And we actually sat down, my oldest, my youngest, I only have 2 kids, both my children and I, we all sat down and had a family meeting, and we talked about it. We talked about what it is to have a boundary, why it's necessary, and what consequences occur if you cross over a boundary. I had to have a really candid conversation with my oldest, and helping her to realize, like, she's not a parent, she's not an adult, and there was a very big disconnect where she felt that there was no difference between an adult and a child, and I had to break it down to her, lovingly. But even though it was a difficult conversation to have in the moment, what I can say is my baby was so appreciative of it. And she's actually been able to hold herself accountable. So what I did was I created a chart, and I wrote out, these are your expectations. So I told her, you have 4 expectations. Take a shower, do your homework, clean your room, and clean the kitchen, right? So both of my kids have 2 rooms in the house that they have to clean, and they have, to do personal hygiene, and I'm going to hold them accountable. So we created that, the list of expectations. The second column is boundaries. So the first boundary is, did mommy have to tell you to do this? Yes or no? If yes, then the consequence is you might not be able to spend as much time that you want, because at the end of the week, like let me back up. My kids, I learned what their love language is, and we didn't really get to talk about love languages, but we'll talk about it another time. But I learned my children's love language is quality time. And for them, that's the best thing you can give them. They don't care about gifts. They don't care about, sneakers and all the other nonsense. They just want to spend time. And we do a lot. Like, we are running around. Anytime I have events in person, if you've ever been to a Melinated Mom event, those 2 kids, 99% of the time, are there. So anytime that we get to actually have for ourselves, they love it. So I'm like, okay, I want to maximize that for you guys, but you have to meet your expectation in order to get the maximum amount of time for us to spend time, So, I showed them, this is the boundary. If I have to tell you to do this, you lose time. If I have to repeat it more than once, you lose even more time, and you'll lose something else. So an electronic, usually a tablet or a phone. If we get to a 3rd time where I have to tell you, you lose time, you lose your electronic device, and now you put yourself in a completely different space where you're not even able to earn any time back. So it took a couple days, not very many, maybe 2. And my oldest came up to me and was like, Mommy, this really helps me understand why I can't do what I want to do, or why I have to do certain things, you know. My daughter used to say a lot, like, Mommy, you do everything. You're up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and you don't go to bed till sometimes 1 in the morning. You never sleep. How can I help you? So when I told her, these are the things that I want you to do, and that will be helpful for me. And my love language is acts of service. So I'm like, all right, if you can clean this kitchen, I don't have to do it. I will love you for the rest of your life. I mean, I'm gonna love her anyway because she's my kid, but you know what I mean. So once I started doing that, she actually started checking off her boxes herself. So, you know, we made the chart, and it has little boxes to let her recognize if she completed her 4 tasks. So I think this is our 2nd week. At the end of the week, we get to Friday, we look at the chart and we say, how many points did you earn this week from doing all of your, from meeting your expectations? And like last week, it was a little shoddy, but I think she earned maybe 5 points. The maximum she get is like 20. So I'm like, all right, you got through it. So, you know, you may not be able to spend as much time as you want, but you understand the value of the time that you want to spend is based on your behavior. So once I was able to say that and explain that to her, I won't say she's been perfect, but she's been phenomenal. And Courtney, we have these talks all the time. But she really has made a huge turnaround, and I'm really proud of her. It kind of scared me though to do that because, you know, just being very transparent, that's not something I've ever really seen in our community. But it worked. And it may not be something that everyone can do, or it may not be something that a lot of people may be willing to do. But I wanted to, my goal was to do something different, to see a different result. I was tired of yelling. I was tired of ignoring. I was tired of feeling like I'm in a constant battle with my kid. So I'm like, I need to try a different solution to try to see a, you know, a different result. And I'm just really thankful. Yeah, I'm just really thankful that it actually did work. And like I said, she's really gravitated towards it. And every night now, we started this routine where she'll come to me and she'll say, Mommy, I was able to get through 3 of the 4 tasks today. You know, my room's still not clean, but I'm gonna make sure I get to that tomorrow. So by the end of the day, I can get all 4 of my expectations done. So now she's seeing a sense of pride in accomplishing those things, and she understands that at the end of the week, she'll be able to get the thing that's most valuable to her, which is spending quality time, right? Even, you know, earlier today, so before we did this event, I actually took my kids to the beach, and even though we were only there for like 2 hours, they loved it. That was like the best thing ever. And on a drive back home to prepare for today's event, my daughter could not stop talking about how she was so excited to be able to spend that time with us. She's like, Mommy, that was the best thing you could have did. It's in the middle of the week, and you showed us how much you loved us, and it just made me feel so good that you spent this time with us, and it was just for us, no phone, no computer, no people, just us. You know, so that made me feel good. It made me feel like my kid can see the value that I have in her, and vice versa, right? So that's the little thing that I did. Thank you, Courtney, for pointing it out. You know, sometimes we do things and we don't realize the significance in it because we just constantly do, right? But that really was helpful. That really it changed a lot. You know, anybody who knows me, it changed a lot in my household. So thanks for pointing that out.
Showcases how important it is, one, to celebrate your wins, but also how much our kids thrive on structure. So I love it, and I'm so happy for you. And it's working. It's definitely working. I found another question. How do you handle how to handle to work in schools for 16 hours because parents email at all hours of the day? How to accommodate and create boundaries? Guess what? You are not a 24-hour worker. The boundary is, these are my hours. I will respond to you during these hours. Might sound cutthroat, but that is what it is. Like, just because you're home doesn't mean that you are 100% accessible. Know that if you toe that line, they're also going to toe that line. I've had to make it very clear to parents and students. So like, I received a message from a student and responded because I wanted the student to know, which for me is a little different, but I wanted them to know I'm not ignoring you, but responded saying, we can talk about this tomorrow. Not ignoring your need. The need is there. I received an okay back. Yeah, did I feel a little bit bad about it? Yep. But guess what? You're asleep.
Right.
That you're not asleep. That is the real thing. That really is the real thing. So set your work hours, and this is for anybody. Set your work hours, or adhere to whatever your work hours are, and let that be it. That is your boundary. Just because we are home does not mean that it is a free for all. That was the hardest adjustment for me as well. It is not a free for all. My phone is still my phone. I still have other people who need me.
Right.
And that's really it. Like, I still am needed in other areas. And I've found that people are a lot more understanding than we give them credit for.
Yeah. All right. So I have 2 more questions and then we're going to wrap because we are almost out of time. So we have a question from Instagram, Miss Unicorn Nurse. How do I connect with my teen daughter whose immediate reaction is to shut down? How can we get on the same page and build a connection, especially when she immediately becomes defensive, like defiance and defense responses? How would you handle that, Courtney? Uh-oh, did we lose? Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me?
I hear you now. Yep.
Okay. You text her and you say, hey, what's going on? Sometimes our kids don't have the words verbally. Our kids are so attached to their phone, we have to meet them where they are. And it can become, unless you have somebody to moderate or mediate the conversation with you and your team, sometimes they feel like, oh, my mom's not going to understand. And sometimes as parents, we don't understand. And really, what you should do is seek to understand. Hey, I really want to know what's going on. Like, am I missing something? And sometimes they'll tell you no because they don't think that you'll get it. But let them know that I'm noticing some changes in you, and I love you, and I'm concerned, and I want to be there for you. And if they tell you, no, you don't give up. Ask them and continue. So I want you to keep this in your mind. Continue to seek to understand. Really ask them, what is going on? Why do you feel that way? Constantly ask the question, like, how am I making you feel that way so I can fix it? If you don't tell me, I don't know. And it might take a while, but it's okay. You're starting the conversation. But so you can have that conversation in person, but sometimes our teens really respond very well in text. I have a lot of my students journal. And when I tell you I get a lot more words and I make them read those words, unless they are really, really uncomfortable reading them, it gives them a voice that they didn't feel like they had. So write her a letter, send her a text message, or just simply ask the question, hey, what's going on? How can I help? I know you might feel like I don't understand or I won't understand, but I'm here to listen. And actually listen. Don't cut off, like listen. Open ears without judgment. And say, do you want my opinion? So even ask that question. And the shutting down might not even have anything to do with you.
Right. All right. So the last question is from Ms. Joanne. And it says, my daughter spends a lot of time learning something and creating shortcuts. Oh, girl, I'm going to answer this. She's been using short sentences in her written responses, rinsing dishes with hot water. Help. First of all, I appreciate that you asked for help, like with like 15 P's. Yes. So is it okay, Courtney, if I answer first? That's okay. All right. So my kid, my oldest, this is her favorite thing to do. She just wants to jump right to the end. She often asks me a lot of questions related to her homework. She's like, Mommy, I don't understand. I don't know what they want me to do. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And my first response to her is, did you read the directions? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. I don't know why kids really want to find a shortcut. I guess it's more the thought process of, I just want to be finished. I just want to be done. But just, I would say for your daughter, just reminding her the best thing to do is not try to cut straight through. Sometimes you do have to take the scenic route because you have to learn things along the way to get to the result that you need to see. You know, everything is not instantaneous. And if COVID hasn't shown us anything, we're so used to our society being quantity driven and microwavable, instant, like snap your fingers, hurry up, get to the end, that we never really got to understand the value of other things outside of work and productivity, right? So for our kids, they obviously, you know, our children don't hold jobs yet, right? But their job is to go to school and to learn and to, you know, get to the next level. But they still live in this microwave society. So she may just be trying to get to the end so she can go to what she enjoys, right? So one thing that I did with my daughter, we broke down her schoolwork, right? And in that breakdown, I identified 2 things that she really loves doing that's still schoolwork, but it's more of a reward, is what is the program she uses? It's called Duolingo, where she's learning how to speak French. And then there's another program that she uses called Prodigy, which is like it's like a math game, but it looks like Legends of Zelda. I know I'm dating myself. I'm 35 years old. But she loves those 2 things. Like, if it wasn't associated with school, like, she would just do that on her own. So what I did was I rearranged her school day, and I said, all right, instead of starting with Prodigy or starting with Duolingo, let's start with English. And then once you've gotten through that, then your reward would be do 1 hour of Duolingo. So then she feels rewarded. She got through something that may be a little difficult, and then she got to get to her reward. But I also gave her instructions, like, the only way we're going to get to the rewarded class or curriculum that you really like is to make sure that you've read all of the directions and you've answered everything completely. We can't just have bits and pieces of things, you know, just to have an answer there. You have to know how you got to that answer, give the explanation, and then move on. So again, like, you know, setting that expectation, helping her to understand why she has to slow down, and that should help with the shortcutting. You know, the rinse and dishes. Again, setting the expectation. So, you know, when I told my daughter one of her expectations is to clean the kitchen, I told her, I can't just say it. I want you to see, like, visually see what it means to have a clean kitchen. So she stood by me while I cleaned the kitchen from top to bottom. And I said, all right, you saw what I'm doing. I'm asking her as I'm going through it. And every single piece and portion of that kitchen that was clean, she knows now. So now I don't have to ask, did you wash all the dishes? Did you clean the counters? Did you clean the stove? Did you sweep the floor? Did you wash off the table? She knows that those are her expectations. So my advice would be to do that with your daughter. You know, she may think in her head, well, visibly it looks clean because I don't see any more food on it anymore. So explain to her, no, you need to use soap and water. You need to make sure this and this and this is done, and then it will be clean. So I hope that helps. Do you have anything to add, Courtney? Nope. Okay. So we're gonna wrap up. First, and I just can't thank you enough, Courtney. Thank you so much for being such a valuable and amazing resource. I I adore you in my heart and my soul. I'm so glad our paths crossed. There's no such thing as coincidence. We were supposed to meet, and you're a Virgo, so that makes you even more dope. No offense to anyone else. But I really think that you added such great value to this conversation, and you were able to speak not just as a professional dealing with children in schools, but also as a mom who's raising a young Black son. And those are things that we need to see. We want to see communities of color being able to thrive with people who belong to that community, giving advice and giving excuse me, giving perspectives from a lens that other people can identify with, right? So I really want to thank you for being a part of today and being the first person to kick off our in-depth discussions on for What's on Your Mind Wednesday. Courtney, really quick, tell everybody where they can find you. Like, what are your platforms? Tell them your website, all that. Give it to them.
You can find me everywhere at Court Chanel Says. So COURT Chanel Says. So that's Instagram, Twitter, and my Facebook. You can find that way. Yes, thank you, CC, for dropping it there. You can find it on my website, www.CourtneyChanel.com. And then Monday through Friday, I facilitate Breaking Ground, which is a 20-minute coffee break. 1 p.m. on Zoom, so you can absolutely find me live there, where we connect and talk all things wellness. So yes, find me there. Court Chanel Says, CourtneyChanel.com, and if you ever can't find me, ask Jaye.
Right, because I'm telling you, I'll be harassing her all day, all the time. So again, I will definitely shout anybody else out. I want to thank my wonderful team who's been moderating our chat. So Alexia, aka CC, you can find her on Instagram at Life of a Melinated Mom. We also have Nicole, who goes by Nicoley Boo, on Instagram. They are two of our amazing team leaders. Alexia is running our chapter in Western New York area, which is Buffalo, Rochester, and Niagara Falls, and the southern tier of Ontario. And Nicole, she is our newest member. She is going to be heading our chapter in the Jersey Shore area, so Monmouth County and Ocean County. So please be on the lookout for these two ladies. They will also be doing the What's on Your Mind Wednesdays on our social media, as well as some of these in-depth discussions. If you have any other questions, comments, concerns, send us an email, melanatedmoms@gmail.com. Please subscribe to our website so that you can stay abreast of all of the updates and events that we have coming up. Because of COVID, you know, we are still practicing social distancing. So we want to make sure that even if we cannot meet in person, we are still virtually there for you. In addition to that, we also have a partnership with the 2 Degrees Foundation, and you can find our virtual group, which is literally called Virtually There, on Facebook. And you'll see the Melinated Moms and 2 Degrees Foundation emblems. And we are doing so much amazing work. I am so excited and humbled at all of the wonderful people who has made this event possible. And we cannot wait to continue to do this again and again and again and again. Do we get PD hours for this? We'll follow up with you, Anna, and we'll let you know what we can do for you. Okay. But again, thank you all for joining. We ran over about 3 minutes, but thank you so much for giving us 2 hours of your time. We hope this is not the last time, and we appreciate you being here and being a part of this. Last but definitely not least, the links are live for our next What's on Your Mind Wednesday in-depth discussion. So June 24th, 2020 at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be hosting our next in-depth discussion, and it is called Nurturing Our Children Through Nature. And we will have special guests the founders of Negroes by Nature, who are these two super amazing young African-American couple who actually leads different holistic nature adventures, and they do it all throughout the tri-state. So we're going to have a great in-depth discussion on how to connect nature and nature with nurturing ourselves and our children. So make sure you go on Eventbrite, Google Melinated Moms, and you will see the link. It is live right now. Pre-register now. As you saw, this particular event filled up pretty quickly. We had over 100 people that registered for this. So, you know, we want to continue to keep that momentum going. If you enjoyed it, if you have anything else that you want us to know, please let us know. We can't exist without you. You are our community, and we totally value you. We have people who are on the call from the US, we have people who are on the call from the UK, we have people who are on the call from Australia. Our reach has grown globally, and we are so grateful for you all. So thank you again. We hope to hear from you soon. You will receive an email through Eventbrite with our feedback survey. Please fill it out for us so we can know how to improve for next time, okay? Thank you so much. Y'all have a great night. Take care. Thank you.